6 o'clock. Let's start the meeting. First off, on a personal note, I'd like to thank each and every one of our committee members for volunteering and serving. Your input is valued and appreciated by all of us. And to the audience, I appreciate you coming, and let's get started.
Okay, so we're going to start by going through the capital improvement plan.
Okay?
So my apologies. First of all, let me preface this by, this is a very rough draft of the budget. So
I understand.
the first run through, and in your packet, you have an intro to the budget first. Those are kind of the green or blue colored pages. We're going to skip those. My apologies. And we're going to go straight to the capital improvement plan. And we will walk through it. This year, I have split the capital improvement plan into 2 separate documents just because it was so large. It was bogging down my computer for hours on end. So I have what is generally considered, and I don't have my apologies, I don't have this packet to tell you what I have wrong. Right up here.
You want
Okay, where's the capital improvement?
We've got an
Started,
extra.
I got it. So yes, this is the correct page that Annie
Right.
has here. No, keep going, John.
Page number.
1 of 59.
Okay.
Keep going. There you go. That's your first page.
Oh, you tricked me, put a page in there.
Yeah, keep
What's our
going
first
past
Okay.
all these colored ones.
1 of 59.
Nope,
Thank
this,
you.
yep. This one. This is your first page is where we'll start. My apologies for the order.
Okay,
Okay?
well, this is really, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Let us know when we get to the next.
You're getting there. I think the next. There you go.
it is.
All right. Capital improvement revenue.
Yes. So this is the summary page for capital improvements. This is all capital improvements, both regular governmental entities as well as the utilities, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the top section, and that's what's up on the screen as well, so is capital improvement revenues. And then the bottom part are expenditures. So this is just the summary to give you the aerial view of what's going on,
Okay.
okay? So you'll see for this year, as soon as I get my screen moved, we are proposing, and they're out of balance, of course they are. Like I said, this is a very rough draft. First run through. Capital improvement expenditures for this proposed year are just over $5 million. You'll see that in that first column,
Mm-hmm.
fiscal year 27 down at the bottom for expenditures. $5,076,357.
Okay.
So that's the broad, big picture. I'm not going, okay, Kyle says he's coming, he'll be about 2 minutes, so.
Okay. Do we want to pause?
That's entirely up to you all.
Yeah,
Just keep rolling.
Let's keep rolling.
We haven't really,
2 minutes.
yeah, I'd say
we
we
just have to
haven't
find
really.
another chair.
So, moving on to your next page. This is what I call the capital improvement form. It's gonna have the color codes across the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we can go through this line by line if you like. You guys have to tell me how you want to go through this. First line, the police vehicle replacement program. That's something that's been on there every year. They rotate vehicles out, one every 5 years, 6 years, chief.
It's been around about 5.5 years, 55,000.
Right,
But 50, all based off mileage?
And warranty.
right, and warranty.
Right, good point, yeah.
And so this is, they'll move 2 vehicles out and replace 2 vehicles, is what this is.
As
And
we have
so
been, okay.
this year, and then every 6th year, they have a blank year. They don't replace vehicles, so that'll be
Okay.
next year in the budget.
28,
Yep.
okay.
And so I'm going to focus mostly on fiscal year 27 at this time.
Okay.
The
So do I
next-
read this, so I'm on the same page?
Yes.
Just looking at handgun replacement.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that every 5 years?
Nope.
How
Nope,
many-
it's being done Here, let me,
I'm not really worried, Joe, about why, I just saw the spikes, I thought that was,
Yeah.
With-
Well, and I can give you.
I thought it was a schedule.
No, it's
No.
not.
Okay.
So currently,
Currently, we run a P320 platform. It's a SIG offering. And so we've had those handguns for about 8 years, but in recent years, we've ran into issues with, they're not approved to use at an academy. And there have been a lot of sympathetic detonations where the gun discharges on its own. And the older it is and the more wear it has, the more prone they are to that. So we've been meeting with reps and T&Ing different platforms that don't have those issues.
Okay.
And so that's why it's an officer safety issue and then just kind of a more of a compliance thing too for academies and things of that nature.
Okay. All right.
Okay, yep, no, I was just, because
I appreciate it.
make it clear for everybody.
Right, no, I saw it, so.
and as a quick refresher, since it's, I know it's been a year since you all were looking at a capital improvement plan document, all of the project sheets, which is what I have on the screen, this is the one specifically for the police handguns, are in your packet in order.
Okay.
Behind your spreadsheet, okay?
Okay.
I will apologize in advance. Like I said, this is a rough draft. I did not get the page numbers on your PDF documents, so my apologies for that. You'll have to trust me, they're in there in order. Okay. All right, so back to that main CIP form. So yeah, after handguns, this one, and we can certainly have discussions now that Kyle's here, very timely, Kyle, thank you. City shuttle bus, this is something that there's been conversations about for the last few years. You'll see the costs reflected, that would be the city match for a grant for the city to purchase. First year would be purchase, preceding years that you see in that budget would be the city match for a grant for operations for a shuttle bus to run in Salem that the city would operate. Okay. Details for that are, again, there is oh, you've got to be kidding me.
All righty.
Sorry.
No, we're fine. Shuttle bus.
So, yeah, details for that are in the project sheet. So, yeah, it's development of a public transportation shuttle system in Salem.
Okay.
For anyone who maybe doesn't have vehicles or low income, anyone who needs, that type of access a project would include purchase of an accessible vehicle, so handicap accessible vehicle and operational equipment needed to run the service. And so the justification, Kyle has that there in that project sheet. MRPC did a study here a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, about the needs, and actually identified that Salem needed some type of service, but at that time, they had other efforts going on in other communities. Do you want to speak to that, Kyle, or?
Inside.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
The bus will, I was gonna ask that, now the bus will not, any transportation beyond city limits?
It would be within city limits. So it would be within city limits. As you can see, it's a fairly costly thing, but I think it's something that's needed within the community. It's just a matter of trying to find where we can find this in our budget. I'm trying to look at like different grants. You can see I have in the funding sources, like the General Transportation Fund, a certain amount, as well as the 5310, 5311 grant. The 5311 grant is to purchase the bus at an 80% discount, essentially. So you get and then I swung pretty hefty with the cost to make sure it was realistic, because I wanted to go over versus under, thinking like, and then the 5310 is an ongoing 50% grant match that's typically awarded to things that take the 5311 for operating expenses. So that's 50% of maintenance costs of fuel, of operation, employee. This would require somebody to be hired on with the city to drive the bus. I doubt anybody has the free time to run a bus, 8 hours a day.
So the service would be provided 8 hours a day?
It would be provided 8 hours a day. That's what I am assuming is,
Okay.
it would be, right now, Houston runs a similar program, and it does look similar to this. The typical general transportation is around 40 to 50 is what they usually run with their service. They run it completely free to the citizens and anybody else in town, so it's just a free shuttle bus that runs throughout the day. I think they have 20 stops. Any adjustments made to that, like, because it is our bus, but because it's a state-funded thing, any adjustments do have to be written and approved. Like, so if we wanted to use it for shuttling people to and from, say, the Commons, if we did fireworks at the Commons or something like that,
Okay.
back and forth into town from the parade route or something, that would be something that we would have to send in ahead of time, like a 2 week ahead of time, which we could put on a person that would be the driver of the bus.
Would the driver probably have to have the same certifications as a school bus driver or more?
Typically, it's, so this would be, they would have to have a Class E license,
Okay. Okay.
So it would be a Class E license.
Okay.
And then I would probably put them through, now, every year, there's a training and a conference that they would also have to attend. That I found out, and that's just to make sure everything is kept up to code and everything, because they do check and they do audit these things fairly regularly. They take, I think, 20% of the programs, and they have people go through
Is that because of the grant? Is that because of the grant?
Because of the grant, because it is state funds.
Okay.
And such a large portion of MoDOT state funds, and MoDOT is really great at bureaucracy. But they have a lot of checks and balances with these kind of grants and things,
So how does this apply? Because the health center also applied for a grant, and they have a van or some type of vehicle that transports, and so that's already occurring.
Correct.
So what would be different between using the health center's free transportation?
Yeah, well, the health center's is not free transportation technically. It can be covered through insurance, but the care cab is, I think, offered for, I think, $4 or something like that. I think you can.
Did that change, or is that something?
I believe that was.
That's probably a conversation outside of this. So.
Yeah.
But those were through, I think, COVID. So COVID funding, I believe. When I talked to Zach Mosier about it, it was part of that program. So they were trying to get some transportation in for COVID funds. But that's, I can only assume on certain things because I'm not on that board, I'm not on that committee. But I do know that that's more of a call, and they come and get you and then take you where you need to go, and you need to have a little bit of ahead of time. This would be something that I would have a modified fixed route.
Right.
So there would be a constant cycle that it would run through, just like standard bus stops that you think about sitting at a bus stop, and you have a schedule that it meets, and then it runs around and runs that schedule. Now, a modified fixed route is what Houston runs, and what that means is if you call ahead of time, as long as it's not too far off of schedule, I think it's like a quarter mile or something, it can deviate from the typical route to pick you up. But that has to be a call ahead of time. Otherwise, it is going to make that fixed route
Now,
constantly.
would we have we have a modified route or a fixed route, will we have designated stops?
Yes. I surveyed the community, and I got, I think, it was more than that. I think it was around 900 responses to a survey, picking what areas. And it was things like, okay, it would be, and I decided to put those on a map. I do have a map of the route. I can't pull it up right now.
No, that's fine.
But I suggested about 20 routes, which is about what Houston does as well. And it's shopping centers, a couple downtown areas. It was areas of high population. So in certain within certain neighborhoods, it'll stop. All of the parks, a couple places downtown, as it just goes around downtown, as well as like down to the bowling alley kind of area, the Crossroads, Walmart, as well as all of the health centers as well.
Is this 5 days a week or 7?
I would that would be up to us. Initially, this would call for about 5 days a week because you'd have to you'd have to hire somebody for those days, right? So this was just assuming like a standard driver pay of about, I think I put $25 an hour for the driver in to constantly do this, because they would have to have certification and all that.
I have a question.
Yes.
What
Can you,
is the,
we need to use mics, sorry.
what is the age limit that you're going to have? Because I'm a teacher, so I could see a lot of parents using this as like a babysitting service. Is they're going to like just throwing their kids on there to get around town? And then that brings my concern about like, you know, little kids on this bus, going places. I think about the park, like with the vandalism and then the repairs for that. So is there an age limit, or they have to be with their parents?
Wouldn't there be some leeway for the city to adopt a policy?
Yeah, that would be something the city, the alderman would, like, once, that's pretty far down the road, but I would assume the
Okay.
alderman would
Good
say like,
thought.
hey, about 12, you know, like, we would be in control of that.
Some age limit without a legal guardian attending?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same kind of thing with the pool that we have. We have policies for something like that, so people can't use the pool as a service like that, which it used to be, you know.
Yeah.
But I would say we would adopt something like that. There are a lot of
I hadn't
policies
thought
and
about
stuff that
that,
you would
but
have to
yes.
follow. Yeah, so any other questions? I'd be happy to answer whatever I can. The big driving factor of this was the MRPC. If I can go back to the original thought for this, was we had MRPC identified us as a fairly high need for transportation around. We do have SMTS, which is underutilized, but is also pricey to a point. You have to call a day ahead of time, as well as, I think it's like $5 or $6 or is it $3? Oh, it's $2 to get around town? Okay. Maybe I was looking at like a county or something like
I
that.
think further, but inside the city limits.
Inside the city, but there's a limited, you have to call
You're
a
looking
day
at
ahead
the
of time.
same service, it's $2.
Yeah. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying not to do the same service as MRPC or
Well, that was where I was
SMTS
going.
or the Dent County Care Cab. They're more of a straight point to point. I want something that would be dedicated use for, it's not necessarily to get 2 doctor's appointments. It's not health related.
Well, I
It's
can
not-
see like where we have our low-income housing
Mm-hmm.
and those, I could see a designated stop and a schedule to where they could utilize it if they know they need to go to Walmart's or
Exactly.
functions like that.
Yeah, so I had a couple I think I did have one at the Salem Housing Authority, right at it would make a stop along, it's not Tiger Pride Drive there, but like right there where right next to the pump that's there. Mm-hmm. And that would be one stop, because not only that, but kids could use it to go to after-school activities or to go home after school activities as well. You could have a stop there, kids getting out of school could jump on there from track practice or football practice and ride it to their neighborhood.
Yeah, okay.
So I do want to make one disclaimer on this line item. It is included in the CIP.
Yeah.
However, it is not included in the full budget numbers that you're going to see later this evening. It came in yesterday, day before?
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
days ago, I
So
think.
we already had budget slides prepared. So keep
Okay.
that in mind as we start going through budget, specific budget numbers later. This item's not included, okay?
Okay, well, so we're looking at, if we implemented it for 27, 61,000, 28, 42 and on out, yeah, for a total of 243, 200?
For 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years, yeah, okay.
The next item then is the financial software upgrade. City staff is in the process of reviewing the 8 proposals that we received when we put out a request for proposals. So that will obviously roll over from the current budget year into this next budget year.
Okay.
And if any of these you want to go into in more detail, please just let me know. So special street fund, the pre-existing leases, this year will pay off a lease that we have on a Bobcat? Skid steer, on a skid steer for the street department. Right. And then we'll have to make the determination if we buy it out versus purchasing a new one. I think the intent is to buy it out at this point. but
Okay.
that lease will go away. Street repaving. This one, the line item's been here, but we are increasing this by quite a bit. And so I'm going to go to that individual project tab so I can talk to you all about this for a minute. And I'm not even going to talk about what specific streets at the moment. We're going to come down here and we're going to talk about amounts and streets. So we started looking at our special street fund. So this is funded by a gas tax, okay? So it can only go to streets, projects, streets equipment, things of that nature. In the past, and this is even prior to my time in this role, we were budgeting $120,000 for street resurfacing, okay? So that's not pothole repair, that's just street resurfacing. So when we have the crews come in and we mill it down and then repave over.
Right.
So as I was looking at our special street fund, we can increase that number significantly. And so you'll see here, I have 300,000 plugged into that number. And kind of keeping on average close to that 300,000 for the next few years. And if we do that for about 5 years, we won't be depleting the fund. It brings in on average just a little over 300,000 a year.
Okay.
And so I've talked with Stacy, I've talked with Brent, our street super. We've been talking about this for a few months now, and we're pretty confident that we can start doing that and start increasing the number of streets that we're getting repaved. So,
Okay.
as we move forward, so some of you may remember, we have talked about doing what we call a large project, Roosevelt being that first one, where we go in, we replace water lines, we replace sewer lines, and then we repave the street. As we've looked at the budgets overall, the water budget, the sewer budget, as well as special streets, we've made the determination to push that project off another year. So as you're looking at these numbers, that hits, so Roosevelt Street, Special Street, Roosevelt project, right here on this line, that would hit then fiscal year 29. That would be the repaving of Roosevelt. Okay?
Okay.
So that number, I didn't just pull it out of thin air. We got a quote for what that would cost last year. This is adjusted for inflation. Okay? So is it 100% what it'll be? Don't know. That's a couple years out, but that's our best guess.
Okay.
But that, you'll see then the regular repaving, we drop that down, but so that we keep the total for that year to around that 300,000 mark. Okay? And then the next year, similar, that would be Mildred, that would be the next big street project, where we would replace water lines, sewer lines, and repave. Okay? So that's the thinking, is we're upping that from 120, 140,000 a year to 300,000 a year for street repaving. Okay? Any questions on that?
No.
Now, I can tell you, the reason I kind of skipped over the specific list of streets, we still need to update this. This is still reflecting when we were doing 120 to 140,000 a year, so I need to update that text. We have, working with Brent, we have identified that first street. We're looking at Pershing from Scenic Rivers all the way to the end on the north side.
Okay.
So up to like 11th Street
11th.
for repave.
Any
other
questions
questions
from
on that?
anybody?
Okay. All right, moving on. Park Improvement Fund. So leases and debt, of course, that is the COP where we redid the pool and the park.
Okay.
Next line item, so we redid, most of you have seen or heard, we redid the parking lot for the ball fields this year. So next is redoing the parking lot for the pool. It's in pretty bad shape as well. What we have broken out here is similar to what we did with the ball field parking lot. We actually had it broken up, or a much larger dollar amount. And then as kind of we worked through the year, we determined that we could do it in-house for much less. We may do that with this one. If we do, that price will drop and it won't take us all 3 years probably, but we don't know that for sure. Part of it depends on what the workload is for our construction crew.
Right.
So we
Okay.
plug in, again, worst case scenario, we have to contract it out. And so it would be broken into thirds over the next 3 years. Okay? Cooling station. This is, so the pool building actually has like a garage door that you roll up and then it just stays open while the pool's open. Melissa would like to enclose that, like in a glass wall with doors, so that they can put some AC in there. Because right now there's no AC in the pool building. And that way lifeguards, other staff, people can get in out of the heat if need be. because they
Just
don't-
the center section, not the change rooms? Because is that all one building? Am I thinking?
Yeah,
right?
it's all one building, but it's just like the main lobby part that opens up.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, so that's what that is.
Okay,
Park murals, Melissa is planning to do some murals on some of the walls of the buildings, one on being the pool building. I think she's also at the splash pad, again, to just kind of show some community pride, enhance some visual appeal. So she's got, that's what that line item is. On the park restrooms, yeah, and on the pool building is what she's looking at. Well, forgive me here. I love it when it works. Okay, moving on. Security cameras, that one may be completed in this budget year, so we'll pull it out of there. But there was some question as to whether it will get wrapped up, the security cameras in the park. We've had issues of vandalism over the past several years, so that's what this is to help. That's in process. I know our electric crew has been out there installing some of the plug-ins and different things that they need at the tops of poles, so that's in process. We just don't know if it'll be wrapped up in this year.
I'm surprised at that number for cameras. I thought it would be more. Yeah. It's sad that we have to have it, but we do.
It is, it is. Then there are some shop building improvements, the 5,200, that's actually installing some heaters, electric heaters into the park's shop building. It's over at 3rd and Grand.
Okay,
And then Melissa and I are still gonna continue talking about this next one, the shipping container for storage. She wants because they're basically rodent-proof, and be a place to store equipment, uniforms, things of that nature for different teams. And so I'm not a fan of shipping containers personally, so we're gonna keep talking about that.
okay.
Okay. And that's it for parks for this coming budget year,
All right.
okay?
Any questions from the board on any of those?
Capital Improvement Fund. So non-departmental, capital improvement, IT and cybersecurity. Didn't we talk about reducing it to 55,000? Okay, got it, thank you. Okay, so the 55,000, Stacy reminded me, we do contract for IT services.
Okay,
When we do the software upgrade, when we select a platform to go with and we start doing that upgrade, we plugged the utilities portion of that software into capital improvements rather than putting it into the utility budgets. The benefit to that is then it doesn't impact rates. And so
Okay.
that was the main reason we put it here.
all right.
And then the rest of that is ongoing IT. Old City Hall building improvements, this is rolled over from this year. This was, we've had out to bid twice this year, trying to find someone to do plaster work in this building and could not. So that's plaster work. It's also other upgrades in getting the old council chambers back up. It's also work in the lobby, so.
Okay,
So that's, quite a few things for this building. Craig Plaza, the 70,000, that is in there for tuck pointing of the wall, the brick wall at Craig Plaza. It's in pretty bad shape. Part of what contributes to that is those bricks, since there was formerly a building there, those bricks are interior bricks. They were never meant to be exposed to the elements. So we've had a quote from a masonry person come through, quoted us at 57,000 to tuck point that wall, dig out all of the rotted wood that's still in that wall from floor joists and such. Would also stucco a band across the top of it where the bricks are really deteriorated, and then put a seal coat on it that should last up to 10 years. So.
And that wall is shared, isn't it?
It is shared, and they're tied together. Every so often, your brick lay in rows, every so often there's a cross brick that ties the two walls together. So ties that wall, it's ours, it's part of Craig Plaza with VIP properties. So. Okay, the next item is kind of a placekeeper, the admin bathroom updates. In the administrative offices, we do not have an ADA compliant restroom right now. Moving forward, and it's not really open to the public with the way, you know, the upgrades that were to the building were made. But if we move forward with a community development block grant in the future, that is a new requirement that all of our buildings either be completely ADA compliant or that we have a plan to get them there. So that's why this placeholder is in there. It's something that we may need to do in the near future. Under building inspection, the next line, dangerous structure remediation. This is somewhat of a placeholder, but in case we do have a building that is determined to be a dangerous structure and needs to be condemned and torn down. Okay. Now, obviously, with that price tag, we're thinking more residential type structures, but that's what that line is for. Okay, so moving down, personnel services under capital projects. The first 3 lines are for the personnel. That's our construction crew. They get paid out of capital improvements. And so when I say capital improvements, that's where the funding comes from. There's a capital improvements tax that funds the projects under here. So then we move on down to sidewalk construction. This line, this is just for general sidewalk replacement that happens throughout the year. We always have some section that's damaged or something that's buckled that we need to go in and replace. And so that's what that line item is for. The next one isn't until the following fiscal year. So I'm going to skip over that one right now, the downtown tap. The next line item, we have sidewalks again, but this is sidewalks, trails, crosswalks. We have an active transportation plan. We have a link to it on our website under the projects tab. This is for those projects. The first one is the intersection of Roosevelt and Highway 19 on the south part of town. We have identified, this intersection is on MoDOT's list, so to speak. It's not a funded project for MoDOT, but it's on their list. They're watching. They know they need to do some improvements at that intersection. Line of sight's an issue, turning vehicles is an issue. And so what we would like, because the elementary school is down on the other end of Roosevelt, we would like to get a crosswalk put there because we know that there are folks who cross 19 at that intersection. So in order to help do that, MoDOT will not consider putting a crosswalk where there is not sidewalk on both sides of the intersection. And right now we do not have sidewalk on the west side of that intersection. So that is the first project for that.
Do we have to put the length of Roosevelt?
No, and they really don't specify, which is
Okay.
interesting. But
Okay.
they just need a connection for the, but if you go 2-3 blocks west on Roosevelt, there's actually a sidewalk on the north side of Roosevelt, along about Jackson, maybe. And so we could put it on the south side, which is where we'd have to put it, south side of Roosevelt,
Okay,
at that intersection.
all
And
right.
then run it to where that, and do a crosswalk across Roosevelt to the sidewalk on the north side.
Okay. Oh, I know
So
what
that
you're
will
talking.
provide a connection.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We come down to streets, 4th Street furnishings. So this is trash can and planter surrounds, trash cans and planters for downtown, for the newly refurbished sections of downtown. We are currently working with the high school ag department to do metal cutout surrounds. So, and of course, it wasn't on my radar that school's getting out, and so we won't see any progress on that till this fall. But I've been back and forth with Dalton Sanders about designs. He has some design concepts that he was working on, so we'll, like I said, we'll pick that back up when school's back in session.
Okay.
So that's what that is for. General culvert replacement, the next one. This, again, just general as things happen, they need to replace culverts, driveways, things like that. However, the 606,000, we normally budget 6,000 a year. This is the Philmart stormwater culvert. 600,000 is the rough estimated price for it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm gonna click onto that one's project tab, maybe, if it'll let me. It's not going to let me, is it? There we go. Okay, so this, when we look at this, this includes, for fiscal year '27, 600,000 is for the Philmart stormwater culvert, which we anticipate will actually be a poured concrete culvert when it goes back in. I did see Toth had a truck here today, and so they
Good.
were doing survey work for
Good.
that project. In fiscal year '28, then, that 60,000 is plugged in. I believe that's for, yes, for the southern part of that same drainage ditch starts on Henderson, South Henderson. We need to replace some sections of that. It's starting to sink in some folks' backyards. So that's what that additional 60,000 is for. Any questions or comments on that?
On the culvert replacement,
Yes.
will they take into the consideration the vehicle traffic that goes over there, like tractor trailers, deliveries? Okay,
Which is
so
part of why,
it's so high?
yes, part of
Yes.
why it'll be a poured culvert or concrete culvert
Yeah.
instead of another metal. Because that's what's in it, is a 6.
I mean, if that collapses, then stormwater doesn't drain from all the way up from
Right,
Berard's or the
Right.
warehouse.
yep, that's correct.
Yeah. Do we have to get an easement or anything for that?
That'll be part of the whole project.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Downtown sidewalk sealing. So in those sections of downtown that we have redone with new sidewalks and lights, one of the things we need to do is seal that concrete. And so that's that 10,000 to get that done.
Now, will we seal all the sidewalks or the blocks that we did?
My understanding is just the blocks that we've done. Yeah, just the new sections, right?
Okay, yeah, good.
The next item is a push snowplow or rotary broom. So with the new sidewalks came then, of course, the need to, how do we clear snow? You really don't want to be driving any small vehicles, ATVs, anything like that on them. So we've talked the last 2 years about there's got to be a product out there, and so that's what that is for. That is specifically for clearing snow downtown. So
And we shouldn't have any need to salt the sidewalks by
that's
that.
the hope with the equipment.
Does the sealing help on that any?
I don't know.
I don't believe so. It's just to keep it from cracking and,
And popping off?
Yes.
Okay,
And the sweeping portion, if the business owners shovel it after we've cleared the streets, then it's in the walkways out in the parking spots. So if we can just tackle it and hit it at all the same time, we get all the snow out, and Bob's your uncle.
that seems reasonable to me.
All right.
I think it's right, though. All right.
Moving on. Okay, so that moves us down to cemetery. We have cemetery replacement of, survey of the south portion. So we have a southern portion, used to be an old trailer park
Yes.
across the southern portion of where the cemetery is. That's city property now, and we need to get it surveyed out for individual plots.
Okay.
Okay, that's what that is. Moving on then, under economic development, the voluntary residential demolition program. So we've had 20,000 in there. It's just kind of a plug number. We use it until it runs out, so. Does anyone have questions on that program? No?
Yeah, what's the difference between that and the dangerous structure remediation?
So
Is that-
the dangerous structure is when we come in and we condemn a house, a building. This one is where the owner approaches us and says,
Yeah,
hey, I'd like some help getting rid of this.
I remember. Okay.
Yeah. One's the carrot, one's the stick. How's that?
Do we have a lot of requests from that?
We haven't, and I don't know if it's because the word hasn't gotten out that it's back up and functioning, because it wasn't,
It was suspended or?
yes, until we hired our new economic development person, it kind of went on the back burner.
Okay.
And so I don't know if it's just that folks don't know that it's out there. We have changed it up from what it was when I was doing economic development. So now what we do is we provide, we cover the cost of the dumpster, the large dumpster for the debris, and the trucking and disposal.
Okay.
And the homeowner needs to contract with an actual contractor to do the actual demolition,
Okay.
so. Okay. Next item, Masters Industrial Park sign. This has been in the budget in the past. We had a plugged number of 50,000. 50,000 is not going to cover. So I'm hoping that as soon as we get through budget, Carrie and I can finish working through the few remaining questions we have about what we need to do to get that out for bid. So,
All right.
comprehensive plan. So this one's new in here. You know, we've had a lot of conversations over the last year or two about our planning and zoning and needs to update our planning and zoning codes. And to do it right, we really need to do a comprehensive plan first, because that kind of informs then what the planning and zoning needs to look like. And so the last comprehensive plan was done in '87, so it's been 40 years ago, and it's time to update it. A few things have changed since then, so. And so you'll see that cost is split over 2 years. It usually takes 18 to 24 months to complete a comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Okay. Kyle, questions?
Yeah, is that, MRPC helps with that, correct?
They
Or-
can, yes.
Okay, they
And
can.
that is kind of based on their estimates.
Okay.
Okay. And just to follow up with that, a little farther down on that list, because they're tied together, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. There's a planning and zoning updates, kind of second to the last item under economic development. That's in at 10,000. So once that comprehensive plan is done, then the idea is as soon as that's done, then we bring someone in to help us update our planning and zoning codes and get that cleaned up.
Okay.
Okay. So back up. So even though it's not in this year's budget, I'll talk briefly about the second certified site development. Sorry. The idea here is that when we sell our certified site, the 25 acres in the industrial park, we'll need to be thinking about doing the next site. And so we wanted to have a placeholder in here so that that's on folks' radar. And for those who maybe don't know what that is, a certified site for economic development is where we, the city, have already gone in. It's cleared. We have already done the environmental studies. We've done the soil testing. We've proven out where tornadoes have hit in the last 10 years. We've proven out there's no karst formations or caves underground. So a business could come in, purchase the property, and theoretically start building tomorrow. There's nothing they have to check out. It's good to go. Okay.
Do we have infrastructure for it? Sewer, water?
We do, they're in the street.
In the street? So, okay.
Yep, they're in the street or across the street.
All
So
right.
we're right there at it.
And that makes it more attractive
To
to,
have it all there, yeah.
yeah, okay.
And our policy on main lines, whether it's water, sewer, or electric, the city will bring it to either 5 foot inside their property line or a total of 25 feet,
Okay,
okay? And since it's right across the street, we'll bring it, do you know what I mean, bring it right to them.
okay.
Next item, billboard refresh. So this is for our Welcome to Salem signs that are at the entrances to town. I think there are 5 of them. Just to update them. Some of them are starting to fade. They've been up 6 years now, so time to redo those wraps. And then the next line item is 5,000 for marketing photos. Again, that's partially for those billboard wraps, but it's also for general marketing. Last time we updated photos, we used those photos for our website. We use them for billboards. We use them, the Chamber of Commerce used them for tourism marketing of the community.
Okay.
Okay. And moving on, airport, box hangar construction. So this is one that should be going out to bid fairly soon for a 50 by 50 box hangar at the airport. Okay.
That will generate revenue, right?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
I don't know how long it'll take it to pay back this amount, but
I was just wanting to make sure that
It
it
will.
would, yeah.
And part of the idea in a large box hangar is that there's hope that we can attract an airplane mechanic, which would be very beneficial for our airport.
Yes.
And so that's the idea. And so this is the city's match for that,
Okay,
okay?
yes.
And we will talk about this a little more when we get into the budget piece. Normally, this would come out of airport funds. That's what we try to do. Staff pitched that it come out of here because their fund, the total airport fund, has $155,000 in it. So it would deplete their fund. And so, as I think about this a little more, one of the things I'd like you all to consider moving forward is maybe we split this in half, and half of it go ahead and come out of the airport fund. That way, as much as possible,
Yeah.
it's still funding itself. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so that brings us to the bottom of the main capital improvement. Well, I take that back. No, it doesn't. I have utilities plugged in there. We're gonna skip down those totals. There's one more airport item, and then that gets us to grants and the bond issue. Okay? So again, because I had to break up the documents into a CIP for utilities and one for the main, you'll see the grant total, utility grants and bond issue totals. So 4.7 million is the utilities, grants and bonds, okay? Then moving down, these are the other grants. The airport box hangar grant at 1.2 million, almost 1.3. The shuttle bus grant that we already talked about, 148,000 for the first year. And then that's it for this upcoming budget year.
Okay.
Okay. So if there are no questions on this, we'll move into the utility CIP. And I will apologize because I don't know what page it's on in there. It's going to be another one of these forms. Do what, John? Are you being snarky with me?
I'm giving my neighbor a hard time.
It's the same thing.
I'm digging, you really buried it.
I did, my apologies. It's gonna look the same as that form we just walked down. It's gonna have the colored columns across the top.
Here?
I promise this will be better for our next.
That's how I got through school. I sat by smart people on both sides. Did you see it? When you see it, holler out the number.
I found one on one of
Oh.
41.
One of 41. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
One of
Thank you.
41.
You're a good man. Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Did we all find it or not yet? Not yet.
That's why I'm the co-chair on that one.
There it is.
Okay, I'm ready. Sorry for the delay. One of 41. There we go. We're rocking and rolling now. All right, let me cheat and go down through here.
What are you on here? Let me see this. This is still, well, that's utility. Okay, we need to come back this way. I don't know that, is it somewhere here between? The replacement lines? Here we go. Here we go.
Can I ask a quick question? What's the Wi-Fi password?
What's the what?
Wi-Fi.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, never mind.
Sorry,
It's
Paul.
okay.
You got it?
I will just,
Okay. Well,
I'll keep that there then.
And mine's in the wrong order but we have it now.
okay.
Wait, no,
good.
I can do this.
Good, okay.
If you're not, I'll thank it.
Okay, so this is the utility CIP. So we'll start with the electric department, okay? And in case, if anybody has questions about the leases and debt, we can certainly go over those. I don't because the focus is more on projects and large purchase equipment, but I can certainly, we
Anybody?
can look at that if we want to.
David? You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so kind of going down the line, there are some changes to this. We have a new electric superintendent, and so he's looking at the budget a little differently, so, which has been a good thing. Line replacement, previously that was an every other year purchase. This is actual electrical line. So places where we have breaks or the line just is old enough it needs replaced, that's what this is for. So $70,000 a year for that.
Okay,
Transformers, again, just, these are basic supplies that they need. As they go out, they're replacing them. New builds, we've got 6 or 7 houses, new houses under construction right now. So those things, they all require transformers. Same thing with utility poles. Since bringing Brandon on, they have really upped the pole replacement. I expect that to continue. So this is their annual supply of utility poles. Tree trimming, we will have a change there. So the last couple of years, we brought in a contractor to do feeder line trimming, so the 4 main lines that supply power throughout town. With our new superintendent, he kind of took a look at things and he's like, I think we can do this better and we can do it in-house. And so what he asked is that we hire a person, we finish out the contract we have right now with the contractor, which that's the $45,000 that's in here.
okay,
And we hire one more person to be a groundsman to work with our tree trimmer, and we do it in-house. And so that will be less expensive for us, one additional salary compared to $200,000 a year is what we were budgeting. So, okay.
wow.
Service truck replacement, this is kind of natural rotation of the truck, so replacement of that. They're wanting to put replace garage doors on their shop. So we had that in the current year's budget, we couldn't get to it, so it's just rolling forward to the next year.
Okay,
Okay.
and that's it.
Yep, that's it for the upcoming year. Moving on into the water department. Okay, tower maintenance program. So this is our water towers. So with the completion of the new one that's under construction, we will have 4 water towers throughout town. So this is what holds our water supply. Just Tuesday night, the Board of Aldermen approved contracts to put these water towers on a maintenance program with the company. So they're going to be coming in, they're going to inspect them every year. If there are issues, they're going to take care of those issues as they find them. We won't be waiting, you know, oh, well, maybe we don't have enough in the budget this year to do the inspections or to do whatever maintenance. It'll be happening because we'll have them on a contract. So you'll see this first year is a pretty large number, 567,000. That actually what this does, you'll notice that number shrinks over time,
Yes,
okay? So this first year, this fall, as soon as the new tower up across the highway from the hospital is completed and filled, they're going to go rehab inside and out the industrial park water tower. And so that's why that large number there. And then the next year will be, they call it the Petasphere. This is the one over by Walmart. They're gonna, it's the one that was actually painted most recently, but it needs some interior work done on it. So they're gonna do it. Next will be the Cone Top or the Witch's Hat Tower by Casey's. And then after that, you'll see it just goes to regular maintenance. Okay. Fire hydrant rehabilitation. So we've had, this is the second year that we've had, I can't remember the name of the company, Fire Hydrant Services, I think, come in and they are going through and they're doing maintenance on all of our fire hydrants. They wrap up all of them with this year, doing the first round of maintenance. They're painting them as they go, painting the water valves that turn them on. If there are issues, they're notating those for us and they're making sure that all of that information is included into Diamond Maps, which is our infrastructure mapping software. And so that number each year is just so that they can come back and just do the maintenance on them. Okay.
okay,
Fire hydrants are supposed to be maintained every year. You oil them, you check that, make sure that all the valves are working, all of that. So, the next item, well feed equipment. So we'll be moving into year 2 with fiscal year 27 of replacing the well feed equipment on our water wells. So, like I said, we did year 1 this year, then we'll move into year 2, and then by the time we hit year 4, that'll finish all of our water wells with new
Okay.
well feed equipment. The next item, even though it's not in this coming budget year, that's that Roosevelt project. So the water line replacement part. You'll see that $312,000, that's why it got pushed off. With paying $567 to get the water tower rehabbed, this was too much of an ask.
Right.
So we pushed it off. Rehab of well number 6. Well number 6 is our well that is in the New Madrid, the aquifer that is impacted by the New Madrid fault line. So when there are tremors, it starts getting turbid. But this well has started having some issues, and we're told it could go out tomorrow or next week or next month. We're hoping it holds on till the new budget year and we can get it rehabbed. The next 2 line items are city's match for grant projects. So the new well and tower, that new water tower, will be wrapping up. It's supposed to be done, I believe, by the end of August. So it'll just be in 1 or 2 months into the new budget year. So that's the city match for the remainder of that grant. And the lead service line mapping, we have, I want to say 16 or 19 days. I don't remember which one. 19 days of exploratory services. So this was a couple years ago. We had a company come in with a hydrovac truck, and they would, both sides of the water meters in one neighborhood in town, they dug up just so that they could identify what the water lines were on both sides of the water meter. That's a requirement. The lead service line inventory is a requirement by the EPA. And so we've got 19 more days of that type of exploratory investigations to do by the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
Okay? And so that's the city's match for that grant for that project. Does anyone have questions on that? So actually this project goes along with, you should have all received a letter back this last fall or December indicating about the water lines for your house, that either they were unknown or they were lead and so that is part of that whole project. So we have to send you all those letters from now until eternity, unless we identify clearly that you do not have lead or galvanized lines. So that's part of that project. Okay. We love it. So. Okay, that's it for water for now.
Okay.
Any questions on any of those?
Nope.
No. Okay. All right, moving on to wastewater. Okay, so line replacement or relining. The reason it's called that, when we talk about sewer lines that are busted up or have issues, we have 2 options. We can either take a backhoe out and dig it up and physically replace it, or depending on the condition of the line that's there, we can reline that sewer line. So it's a product that goes in, they basically blow it in and from the inside, and it puts a lining in and then it hardens. And so it seals up any holes or cracks in that sewer line.
And we've done that here, haven't we?
We have, it's been several years since we've done
Okay.
it. But those,
But I mean, it's a good procedure.
huh?
It's a good,
It is, but again, it depends on the condition of your line.
right.
Some of them can be too busted up or have too many tree roots. They're just too broken up to be able to maintain the structure and keep that lining material like it needs to be.
Yeah, I get it.
So we have the 100,000 in there. We're kind of plugging that. We were looking at increasing that to 200,000, but we needed to push that off a year. Part of that is the very next line. You see line replacement or relining grant match. 2 years out, 65,000. That's the Roosevelt project.
Right.
We're looking at applying for a grant to help offset costs for the sewer line. And so, again, we had to push that whole project off. So that 65,000 plus the relining number above it, that's about that 200,000. That's what we're looking at, hoping to get to a year. Wastewater treatment plant upgrades, phase 2A, those are the ones that are underway now. We should be wrapping those up September. I think that's our due date. That's ARPA grant funded. That was the $5 million grant, and so we have to have that closed up this fiscal or this calendar year, reporting and everything wrapped up. So, and then telescoping valves. This is at the wastewater treatment plant as well. Do you have more details on that, Steve? I don't think I have a lot of details on it. Is that in a clarifier? Okay. If you guys want me to, I will attempt to explain what a clarifier is. Otherwise, I won't go into the details. Okay, it's one of the later processes in the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
Okay. And that's it for wastewater. Any questions other than what a telescoping valve on a clarifier is?
No.
Okay, so then this last section, this is of course the grants that we have. So this is the grant portion. We already talked about the city match up in the other parts. So the new well and tower, we have a remaining 1.1 million that will wrap up in the next couple of months. Lead service line mapping, 60,000 left on that grant. That's that exploring both sides of the water meter. The wastewater treatment plant phase 2A, just under $1 million left on that grant. Again, that'll be wrapped up by the end of September. Then the next line, that's the wastewater treatment plant 2B. So this is the bond portion of the upgrades. And so we actually got notice that DNR has completed their review of the construction plans. So we're hoping that goes out to bid soon. There has been some talk about wanting to have phase 2A wrapped up before we do that. Now, part of that, and there's not a specific line item in here, I don't think, no, there's not. Part of that also is related to the FEMA projects. So November of '24, when we had the massive flooding and the whole wastewater treatment plant was under 4.5 foot of water, we are still working on the repairs for that project.
We didn't just repair though, we modified.
Right.
And
We're
that needs to
we're
be.
doing both repairs and mitigation. So mitigation, so that if it floods again like that, we won't have the same issues.
Right.
So those are underway. We did get an extension. Original deadline was June 30th. We got an extension to the end of September? September 30th.
Okay.
To finish up those repairs. So there has been talk about waiting until phase 2A and the FEMA mitigation and repairs are done before we go to bid for 2B.
B. And 2A and 2B are all done to keep us in compliance with EPA and
Correct.
DNR.
Correct.
That's for any new
Yes.
members. It's not, it doesn't increase our capacities.
Right.
But it keeps us in business.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, moving on, the next item in here, this is fairly new. This is a grant, it's a 100% grant. When we're operating our wastewater treatment plant, one of the end products is sludge. And years ago, we could go land apply it. A lot of farmers would take it to apply to their land. We can't do that now because it has PFAS in it. So that's kind of the new contaminant that EPA is tracking. So we were successful in getting a 100% grant through DNR to get rid of the sludge, to haul it off and dispose of it at an approved landfill. So that's that $792,000. So we were very grateful for that. The next two items, Bone Break Center, so sewer line realignment. This is a project we've talked a lot about in the last several years. At this point, I've had a lot of questions recently about, well, where is that project? What's happening with it? So the Salem Housing Authority, the housing development that they're doing on the old middle school project, we're waiting for that funding to close, and that should close in September. And once that funding closes and we know for sure that's moving forward, we will move this project forward because there was a donation of funds from the developer to help us make this project work. Is that
Yes.
okay? Do you have questions, David? No? Okay. The next one, Franklin and Hickory Streets. That one, we've got the funding for that. Had conversations with our new engineer about that, so hopefully that's moving forward in this next year also. Okay. The other items obviously don't happen in this year. That's hopefully the grant funding that goes with those large projects. Roosevelt sewer line grant, Mildred sewer line, those ones. Okay. So for infrastructure utilities, we're looking at just over 6 million planned for this upcoming budget year. 16 million over the next 5. Okay. Any questions overall on the CIP? What, Kyle?
Just a lot of info.
It is a lot,
So
and we still have the whole budget to go through.
I can't
Yes.
wait.
You can't wait, okay. Like I said, happy to answer any questions anybody might have. I truly would rather spend some time and make sure you guys are comfortable with it. You ready to move on?
Ready.
Okay, on to the budget. Okay, first slide of your budget should look like what's on the screen. Everybody there?
No,
Not yet, okay.
It's way in the back,
Yeah.
way in the back.
way in the back.
Like the last page?
No, not quite. Look for page 2.
I didn't staple this together and look. Okay, here we go. Thank
Can
you.
I,
I knew you'd be a
I did
valuable
have,
asset.
Sally, I did have one thing, if you don't mind.
What's that?
So when I'm looking at the capital improvements fund, and this may be not a question that could be answered here right away, but we have a capital improvements sales tax,
Yes, we do.
right?
And that's what funds the capital improvements fund.
Yeah, and that's, well, partially, because I think like a lot of these things are grants and a lot of these things are, and some of these things are coming out of, when we're looking
No,
at
no,
the
no.
total
Hold on, I said the capital improvements fund.
fund, okay.
When you look at, and I don't want you guys to flip back to it.
No,
No. But grants are in that fund, aren't they?
that's the.
No, okay.
That's the confusing part for me a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm trying to,
Can we find it in someone's packet?
I've got it,
Okay.
like, I'm at the front of the packet
Okay.
here.
And then we'll do show and tell.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me get to, here's
Okay,
this.
okay, so I'm gonna hold it up for
Yep.
everybody to see.
Okay.
As you're looking at, I'm just gonna use the front page of the capital improvement, so this is the one with the colored bands across the top. okay?
Yeah,
As you're looking across the top here, you'll see at the very top, it says 100/111 general fund.
Yeah.
okay.
So until you find the next one that says 201 special streets, all of those items right under the general fund are funded out of general fund.
Okay,
Yeah,
Repair and
that's,
replacement fund.
okay, okay.
Unless it's a project, okay?
And the
But that's-
other
the next one is
signifies,
special huh?
what does that signify, the second one?
Special streets, gas tax funded.
Okay.
So those tell you where the funding comes from.
Okay.
So even though this is the capital improvement plan.
that's what I was kind of,
Everything in it is not funded through the capital improvement tax.
Okay,
Those happen, so we've got general fund, special streets, park improvement fund, that's
Alright.
a tax.
Yep.
yeah,
And then capital improvement fund. So everything down here, on to the next page, till
Is
we
ca-
get to the electric department, is capital improvement
Okay.
tax funded.
okay.
that's what I was.
There you
yeah,
go.
That makes a lot more sense. I was just wondering what the actual tax was funding itself.
And so, yeah, so that's
Thank you
how
for-
you know how it's funded.
Okay, that's what I was curious on.
You got it.
Thank
There
you.
go.
Well, thank you, Kyle, that was worthwhile.
Like I said, any questions, I'm happy to answer, because I want you guys to understand where it's coming from.
Not
where
that
it's
Kyle
going.
isn't worthwhile all the time.
Great. And actually, yes, Stacy reminded me, my apologies, and I do not have these slides to show on the screen. I told you guys this was a rough draft.
I got you.
Okay, in your packet, can I borrow yours again, Kyle? I'm
Absolutely.
gonna pick on Kyle.
This is a,
He asked the question, I'm gonna pick on him. Okay. Okay. Back here. Don't lose your place where the budget starts. For the introductory slides, I do want to talk through you guys. Okay. So I'll talk through so that everyone else can hear. Are you okay if I take your packet with me?
absolutely, no, I've got a second one. That was an extra that was on the table.
Okay,
Now
perfect.
I've got this one here and I've got it online.
Like I said, I promise
appreciate
next
that.
meeting this will be better. Okay, so these are the
Thirty, you promised
introduction
we didn't have
slides.
an
These are the big concepts about the budget as a whole. They won't be on the screen, my apologies. But that's why I'm
Yeah,
gonna talk
okay.
into the microphone so that folks who can't see it hopefully can understand a little better what's going on. So, starting on to that, flip past your title page. So presented is a balanced fiscal year 27 budget. Okay? Fiscal year 2027 is a $23 million budget. This is a 15% decrease from the amended 26 budget. Okay? When looking at expenditures, grant-funded projects account for most of the decrease between the current amended budget and this new budget. Total expenditures on grant-funded projects are anticipated to be roughly $5.7 million, just over half of last year's total grant expenditures. And that reflects in wrapping up some of these big projects.
Okay.
However, this budget also includes some increases in one-time expenditures that are new to the city's budget, such as the state audit at $125,000, increased legal expenditures, and a comprehensive plan update. And we talked about the comprehensive plan.
Right.
Okay. On the revenue side, decreases in revenues are largely accounted for by the same decreases in grant revenues, many of which have rolled over from previous years. And as we talked about in the capital improvement plan, 2 of the largest projects are wrapping up in the first quarter of 27. That's the new well and water tower, wastewater treatment plant, phase 2A.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the next one. Fiscal year 27, reserve funds and transfers. So in every budget, there are 4 types of transfers that happen, that you'll see every time. Okay? Transfers from the operating funds to the reserve funds. So reserve funds are your emergency funds. What happens when your wastewater treatment plant is flooded with 4.5 foot of water? What happens when lightning strikes your primary water well? That's your reserve funds. Okay, I call them, you'll see here, the oh crap fund. Okay. There will also always be transfers from operating funds to the depreciation and replacement, or DNR funds. The DNR funds are set up specifically so that we can replace equipment and vehicles. Okay. There will always be general fund transfers to funds without an independent or sufficient revenue stream. So we just talked about all those different funds in the CIP and how they're funded, but we have some in the city budget that don't have a specific funding source. The cemetery is one, economic development is one, building department doesn't have a separate fund or revenue stream, so we will always have transfers to those. And then a 5% royalty fee that's transferred from electric fund to general fund. The purpose of that is that if we had, or the reason we do it, if there was an independent utility operating inside the city limits, they pay a 5% franchise fee to the city for the privilege of operating in our city boundaries. Okay? That's not unique to Salem. Almost every city does that. So we charge our own electric utility that same 5% fee. It also goes to cover the idea behind if it was an independent utility, it would have a CEO of its own, it would have a chief finance officer, it would have other admin staff who do things to help make the utility run. In here, in the city, that's our administrative staff who does that. And so it helps cover those costs.
Okay.
So that's why we transfer that, okay? All right. I'm not going to go over this next slide in detail. It's in here every year. This is our reserve fund balance policy. Talks about our reserve, or our OCRAP fund, should be 25% of the previous year's operating expenditures. Okay? And then it also says that we're going to transfer 5% a year till we meet that goal into that reserve fund. We have applied it to all funds, not just utility funds. Prior year's fund balance. So prior year's fund balance accrues over time. When in a budget year we don't get a project done, or we choose a different way, just like we chose to in-house do the parking lot for the park, we saved money. There was money we budgeted, we had the revenue stream for it, but we didn't expend it. And so that money that we don't spend just stays in that fund. And so that's called the prior year fund, okay? So that's what this is. Sometimes we choose to pull from that fund to balance our budget, okay? So this slide and the next one talk about when staff right now is proposing we pull from prior year funds. So the first one, the Parks Improvement Fund, given that they're planning for a third of the pool parking lot to be paved, because you never want to pull from prior year funds to do operating expenditures. Because that's just bad business. You don't want to take out a loan to operate, you don't want to pull from prior year funds or savings. You need to sustain those out of your normal revenue. But special projects, it makes sense that you might be saving money for, or you might need a little extra to pull to make the project happen.
Okay.
Okay, so Park Board, who has already approved their budget, recommending to the board approved it with pulling $14,406 from their prior year funds. Okay. The airport fund, I know I talked a little bit about this in the CIP. It's presented using $21,161 from their prior year funds, plus $140,000 transfer from capital improvements for the box hanger culverts, or box hanger construction. Now that's the piece I mentioned earlier, that maybe we might want to look at splitting that in half, going ahead and using half of it from airport's prior year funds, which will leave them about $85,000 left, and only half coming out of capital improvements.
Okay.
Okay.
You're right.
So those two funds don't have specific separate reserve funds, airport and park board. They have one fund and that's it. Okay. The others, moving on, the general fund, depreciation and replacement fund, proposing using $12,000 for vehicle replacements. So that's really the purpose of the DNR fund, is vehicle and equipment replacements. But in this instance, and you'll see this as we move through the full budget, we're not putting enough into that fund this year to cover what we need to pull out of it. And that's a concern. That's been a concern since we started the repair and replacement funds, is we've not been able to fully fund them each year. Okay. Next, Special Streets Fund. So again, I mentioned in the CIP that we're wanting to increase that amount that we're doing of repaving of streets up to $300,000. So that means we're pulling from the repair and replacement, or from their prior year funds.
Okay.
Now, I did kind of a projection, like over the next 5 years, if we do that $300,000 each year, we're not gonna deplete that fund. It'll end about where it's at today. So long as everything stays the same, it'll be about where it's at today if we're spending $300,000 a year. But it will mean we're, at least this first year, we're pulling from prior year funds.
Okay.
Capital improvements. Use of $728,006 prior year funds. Now this is due to the storm culvert we've got to fix at Philmart, and for the airport box hanger, that $140,000 that we've talked about. Okay. Okay. The last two on the next page. Earlier this week, we had discussions with the utility committee because they didn't have a quorum about our water fund and what do those rates need to look like. Okay, so again, it was a discussion, no motion, no vote, no recommendation. So they talked about maybe pulling $131,529 from prior year fund, but if we don't do anything, if we don't increase rates, we will need to pull $546,000 and change from prior year funds to balance the budget. Okay, utility committee talked about a compromise, pulling the $131,000 and change plus an increase in rates. So again, not a recommendation, just a discussion at this point. Okay.
Just for me, we didn't increase rates last year.
Yes, we did. For
Did
water
we?
fund, we did.
But we supplemented it.
We did. We pulled some from prior funds.
We did the
some
same thing, didn't we, Mr. Williams?
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
sewer reserves. Now, so here we go back to the FEMA project. The revenue came in the current budget year, but the expenditures will happen in this next budget year. So because the revenue, we already have it, that rolls into prior year funds for the next budget year. So the only way to use it is pull from prior year funds. Make sense?
Yes. Amazingly,
thinking
I
about it.
understand.
Yes.
I'm just going through my head on other things,
Okay. Got it.
crunching numbers.
Okay. All right. When we go through the budget, there are some increases you're going to see budget-wide. Liability insurance, citywide, is going up. That happens, it's happened every year. It's just, yeah. Cost of living for city employees, we base that on the capital improvement, CIP. Consumer
Index.
Product Index, CPI. sorry, getting my acronyms mixed up. CPI, Consumer Product Index. It is, according to the release that just came out yesterday, so again, this is why this budget is very draft, 3.5%. So that's what these numbers are not in the budget.
3% is.
Right, because it came out yesterday. What's in the budget is a total of 3%, 2% COLA, 1% merit. What we're actually looking at, but didn't have time to change the slides, is a total of 4%, 3.5 COLA, 0.5% merit.
Okay.
So but again, that's not in the budget you're gonna see tonight. And then, of course, some pay scale true-ups. So we have those most years, and we'll talk more about those as we get to those. So next page, some assumptions. So in order to prepare the budget, it was necessary for staff to make a series of assumptions. The first 4 items relate to employee retention and recruitment. So the first one is approval of the new employee health insurance proposal. You don't have those numbers in here either, right? We just got those, so they're not reflected in here yet either. But as a rule, the city historically has covered the first $550 per month per employee, and then the rest is on the employee. And so that's kind of how we've done that. Pay schedule adjustments, again, we'll talk about those in a minute. Assuming that it will be approved, the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, and then merit raises. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about this next slide because, like I said, we don't really have the numbers. We don't know what it's going to be per employee additional at this point. But like I said, the city's obligation, or at least what the city's agreed to in the past, has been $550 per employee per month. Okay. So that part's not changed. Okay, pay scale adjustments. I am not going to read this slide to you, okay? This talks about the methodology, how I come to those adjustments.
Okay.
So the next 2 pages, as you look at this lovely spreadsheet before you, it is every position the city has, what that pay scale is, step 1 through step 10. The items that have an additional row across in blue are ones that we're proposing we adjust that pay scale. Okay. Now understand, even the rows in white already have that 3.5% COLA built in. Okay? The blue rows are when I compare that position average wage from the Missouri Municipal League salary survey, and then I adjust by that Dent County factor that's off to the right. You'll see the first line has an 84%.
Mm-hmm.
Then this line is that adjusted to that dollar amount for general laborer. So you'll see general laborer right above it in white starts at $15.53 an hour. The adjusted proposed pay scale starts at $16.01. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. There are 2 lines, one on each page in red. I'm actually proposing that we delete those lines and pay scales because we no longer have those positions or anyone in those roles. Okay. At this point, I believe we only have 4 employees who would be impacted by pay scale adjustments. Last year, we had quite a few.
Which, didn't we say we thought we'd have less this year?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then possibly next year?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, last year we had 2 entire departments where everyone in those departments
That's
were
what I
impacted by
thought.
pay scale adjustments.
Yes.
Yes, Kyle?
Across the top, at the very, very top, I'm going way back here, the 1 through 10, is that how many years they've been employed, or what is that?
No, it's not. So this, what we did is we took something that was in place when I stepped in,
Okay.
and we modified it to make it work for us. The idea behind a stepped pay scale like this is that through your merit evaluations,
Okay.
you would be able to move up those steps. The
Okay.
problem comes in that these steps are 3% apart, okay? But when we can only approve 0.5% for merit, they're not moving up a whole step. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because the COLA, the 3.5 that we talked about,
Yeah, it's-
adjusts the entire pay scale up.
right,
But we've not, since I've been in this role, have we been able to look at a 3% merit. So,
Okay.
does that help?
No, it helps, because I can understand like having a
Right.
scale there, because like there's also obviously different qualifications and certifications that people have when they step into
Yes.
a role too.
And
so-
then, again, the idea behind, of course, a merit evaluation is that
Right.
how good are you doing at your job? Are you
Right.
excelling? In which case, as proposed this year, you'll get a full extra 0.5%.
Right,
If you're just, you might get an extra 1/4%.
yeah.
So, or if you're not doing well at all, you might only get COLA. I mean, that's kind of how our merit evaluations work,
Okay.
okay? And like I said, just because a line is in blue and we're proposing a pay scale adjustment, doesn't mean whoever's in that line is getting a pay increase. It just means the pay scale shifts,
That's
which
right.
means over time, they have more earning potential. So,
Okay.
all right. Any other questions on the pay scale pieces? No?
Nope.
Okay, all right. So back to the cost of living on the next slide, 3.5% based on the consumer price index. Then I have some, and in yellow, you notice it's in yellow for the average City of Salem wage. I don't have that calculated, so that's last year's number. But all of the other data stands, those are the most recent updates for that other data, and I provide that just as a comparison when you're looking at the wages. Merit raises, we already talked about the half percent, so this talks about COLA. Like I said, I'm not going to read that line for line. So proposed changes in staffing. Included in the budget, I believe the only change in staffing we have is the assistant city clerk going from 16 hours a week to 20 hours a week. Our current assistant city clerk is going to retire on us, and we will miss her. But, so that's the only change we have included in this year's budget. Okay. Last year, we did some combining of positions, animal control and code compliance and some different things like that.
You think we'll go from 16 hours to 20?
Well, so we've been back and forth, and I know you and I have talked about this, and I wanted to kind of bring this up for conversation. So there are some concerns that we need more than 20 hours a week. We've had some internal conversations about how do we do that. Given budget constraints, how do we accomplish this? It becomes especially important if our clerk needs to go on vacation. She needs someone to cover. Our clerk is statutorily and by city ordinance required. She signs checks. She attends our regular alderman meetings. She takes the minutes. She's the only one who can file a plat at the recorder's office. I mean, she's the one who responds to sunshine requests. I mean, there are things statutorily that she is the only person who can do that. So having an assistant city clerk who can step in and fulfill those duties when she's gone becomes pretty critical at times. And there are times where that workload is far heavier than at other times. As we talked about it internally, and I've visited Tammy, our city clerk, about this, I won't say we're 100% there yet, but one idea that we've talked about is to utilize the staff that we have currently. So some of you have heard about the cemetery mapping project that we're doing. You may have heard about it, you may not have. Our cemetery, about 35 acres, has over 15,000 folks buried in it. So we, over the past year, a little over a year, took on the project of mapping it because all of the cemetery data was still in handwritten ledgers.
Dating back to,
1800 something.
not afraid to turn and look.
Well, and some of those ledgers are literally crumbling.
Yes.
But the reality was when someone would come in wanting to do some research or wanting to know where Great Aunt Bertha was buried, they would have to dig through these ledgers to find it, which is extremely time consuming. So we started digitally mapping. We haven't made it publicly live yet. We will at some point in the near future. So we've been taking all of that, entering it into Excel, so there's a searchable database, and then also mapping it. We can upload the Excel sheet straight into our mapping program and it maps them. So I say all that to kind of lay the groundwork for some of our thinking. On this cemetery mapping project, we have been utilizing, so Devin, who's over there running our AV behind the curtains, Devin's my admin assistant. We've been utilizing some of his time when he's not doing other duties. We have also enlisted the help of all 3 of the utility clerks when they are not doing their duties. And they've been entering in all this information from the hand ledgers into Excel. So there's extra capacity there. And as that cemetery project, because we have now made it through all of the burial ledgers, that's done. The only ledger left to enter data from is the sale of plots ledger that records every time we sell a space. So we're still entering that data. Devin is still working on cleaning up data that we've already got into Excel sheets, because there's a lot of cleanup of data to be done. There's still also, that project will continue going, but not everyone will be able to be working on it all the time. And so the cemetery project has helped fill some of that time, but that tells me there's extra capacity there. And we have talked about maybe splitting up the assistant clerk duties among those folks and maybe dividing it by function. Maybe one person takes on, in addition to their utility clerk duties, the HR piece. Onboarding of new employees, helping employees get set up for their health insurance, those types of things. Maybe one person does that. Maybe another one works on the records retention, management of records, helping with sunshine requests and things of that nature. Well, maybe another person works with business licensing, cemetery sales, and things like that. So that's some preliminary thinking that would not add to the budget and utilize staff that we already have on hand. So like I said, divides it up a little differently, but trying to be creative about how do we make this work and still provides our clerk with more support. So if we assume that each clerk has 10 hours of free time, we throw Devin in that mix. Do you know what I mean? We've
Gives you
got
30 hours.
30 to 40 hours.
Which goes to where I was
Right,
full-time.
right,
I just look at the demands
right.
of the
No, I understand.
administration building.
Yes,
As the city grows, as we get more complex, and then I see how these requests
yes.
come in, and because of our antiquated
Right,
records, we pull completely off our daily duties,
right. To-
you know?
to
And that's
meet
not fair,
deadlines.
that's not fair to the administration. I like your idea, I just I would just caution us not to use that as a crutch to kick the can down the
No,
road.
understood,
I
understood.
think the day will come when we have to expand staff.
And there may be.
Yeah.
And the thought is, like I said, we're not 100% there on this idea yet, but
Right.
it's something we're kicking
I
around.
like you that you're thinking of it, though.
And, you know, maybe we try it, and if it doesn't work, then we say, okay, we gave it a shot, we need to go a different direction.
Agree with that.
So,
I agree with that.
and I won't say we have all of the logistics worked out.
I agree. But we do have a limited fund,
Yes, yes.
and we have to work within it.
Another potential benefit to that, and I thought of this, I think yesterday, and I shared it with Stacy. So our 3 utility clerks are each paid out of one of the utility funds. So one out of electric, one out of water, one out of sewer.
Okay, I get it.
If we're splitting their time and they're each spending 10 hours doing city clerk duties, then they're gonna get paid out of a different fund for those 10 hours. So it'll be small, but it'll be a reduction in expenses to the utility funds.
Okay.
So that could be a side benefit. Okay,
All right.
okay, moving on. Okay, points to consider. We've already talked about a few of these. As we go through the budget, keep some of these things in your mind, okay? So the first one, and I can't stress this enough because I hear it out in the public still yet. This is the 3rd year that the city is reducing our dependency on transfers from the electric fund. The large transfers that happened historically are not what's happening, and this is the 3rd year that we have delivered on the promise that when we were marketing the sewer bond, we made this, and the sales tax increase, We told folks in that marketing that by doing this, this will allow us to reduce the amount we're transferring from electric and get us to that 5%. So this is the third year, all we're transferring from electric, period, to general fund is 5%. So I want to stress that because I think that's very important for the public to know and understand that we did what we said we would do. So, okay. And that's, I want to say 330,000 ballpark. Okay. So this is also the third year that we've been setting aside funds for our depreciation and replacement funds for vehicles and equipment. And like I said, and I have in here that, you know, it's a struggle to fully fund those, but it's the third year that we have been actively doing something to set that money aside to make sure that we have the equipment and the vehicles we need to operate. Number 3, this is truly one for you guys to think about as we talk about balancing the budget. Now, I'll make this statement first, and this applies also to the airport fund and the question of do we pull part of it out of the airport fund and part of it out of capital improvements, or all out of one, whatever we decide to do. In the total global picture, the budget, the full budget you're about to hear about depletes our fund balances by about $1 million, okay? Total, across all funds. So some of these questions about do we pull it from this fund or over from that fund won't impact that at all. It's still the same amount.
All right.
So it's more about the integrity of how are we paying for what.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
What revenue are we using to pay for what expenditures? So on this number 3, there is a balance in our economic development fund. And our economic development fund does not have its own revenue stream, okay? The reason we have a balance is because this is carryover from the Welcome Home program. Some of you may remember that, where we had a grant to assist low-income individuals in our community do home improvements so that they could remain living in or, you know, have an improved living experience. It did everything from roof replacements, complete bathroom upgrades, I mean, any number of things. The way that program worked is we expended the funds first and then we got reimbursed. So, especially the last year of that program when we were wrapping them up, we had already expended that money, but the money came in the next year.
Okay.
Okay? So it rolled over because we'd already expended it in the previous year. It rolled over into our prior year fund balance.
Okay.
That's why there's money in the economic development fund. Okay? So the question is, on the comprehensive plan, do we want to pull money from those funds to pay for that? Or do we want to just go ahead and use general fund revenue for that? So, oh, capital improvement fund, sorry, not general fund, capital improvement fund. Okay? So you don't have to answer that now. As we go through the budget, you'll understand why these questions become relevant when you see some of our final balances.
Okay.
So the next one, the airport fund, we've already talked about that. I won't go over it again, but do we want to pull half and half? The sewer bond, okay, it should close sometime this year. We thought it was going to close this last year. It hasn't. It should close sometime this year. It is required by the state revolving fund, where that money comes from, that we review and adjust rates each year as necessary. We do anticipate additional operational costs with those upgrades that are coming to the plant, but we're not anticipating sewer rate increases in this budget year. But I put that out there because I want folks to know there's additional operating costs coming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then we've already talked about the assistant city clerk position. Okay? So those are the big things that I wanted to point out for you all to think about as we go through the budget. Okay, so now we go back to, hopefully you all still have your place.
I pulled my pen out and lost it, but I can find it. We'll get
Page 2.
Page 2.
page 2.
Starts with this goes.
I'm on page 3. I'm on page 3. I looked at page 2. My page 2 don't look like that page 2.
Yeah, I've got
We're
one.
back.
I've got one.
Back here.
You're not back far enough.
Okay, got it.
Page 2A. All
I
right.
really wanted to determine your finding your positions.
That's, they lack. They lack.
Make it easier.
Huh?
down that way.
Dog ear, you smart man.
Are we ready?
Rock and roll.
Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to Stacy to talk to you all now.
Okay, so this is the list of all of the city's funds. Just for informational purposes, the city uses fund accounting, which is used to track the amount of cash assigned to different purposes. Some of these funds are restricted funds, as Sally kind of already mentioned that, which means that they can only be used for that fund purpose. Some of these funds have little to no activity, so we will only be looking at the major funds that do have activities.
Okay.
This report, again, lists all of the funds, the estimated beginning balance to start the new budget year, and those numbers will change as expenditures continue to be paid. Then the next two columns show the proposed budgeted revenues and expenditures. Then the next two columns show the transfers between funds. Then the far right column shows the proposed ending balance for each fund. So if you look at the very bottom of the slide, it shows that we anticipate to start the fiscal year at 16.1 million. Total revenues at 22 million, expenditures at 23 million. Then the very far right column shows total of all fund balance at 15.1. And again, Sally had already stated that it's going to decrease about $1 million. If there's no questions on that side, we can move on. So this side, the yellow highlighted is what we budgeted for the current year. We are projecting to end the fiscal year with revenues and expenditures less than what we had budgeted. That is, as Sally already mentioned, because there are several grant projects. We thought they would be further along than what we are. So some of those will not happen in this budget year. For the draft budget, fiscal year 27, that's the bottom line. Revenues less expenditures are showing, again, a deficit of $1 million there. Revenues and expenditures are significantly decreasing over the current fiscal year budget. As Sally kind of already touched on this, the grant projects that are nearing completion, although we do still have several grants coming up. And then the next slide lists those grants. And I'm not going to go over these grants because Sally already did, but we're looking at revenues within this budget is 5.4, almost 5.5. The expenditures within the 27 budget is 5.7, which comes to about $280,000 of the city match.
Pretty good.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, we can move on. Okay, so this is referring to the general fund, and this is just kind of budgeted highlights that I kind of listed out. I'm not going to talk about every single one, just a few of them I'm going to kind of pinpoint. On revenues, we do have a school, we're increasing revenues. We do have a school resource officer that is split between the city and the schools. We will receive 75% of the officer's expenses, so that will increase our revenue line for that, which is about $45,000. Sally already mentioned the transfer between electric fund, which is 5% of electric sales, is $336,000. On expenditure side, I do want to say on the second page of the budget highlights, I have in there under the non-departmental, I have a IT position being added. We took that out because it's just not going to fit in our budget. It was kind of more of a wish list item. So it's showing on that slide, but it's not in my budget numbers. Proposing, so overall, the increase in salaries as cost of living and merit, I only have 3% plugged in my numbers, so that may change. And then increase in expenditures due to that school resource officer. We'll have increased expenditures on personnel on the police line. On the general liability, we'd be going up about 15%. Then the state audit increases the budget $125,000, increasing legal services. And then that's the main ones I'm going to point out. There's some smaller items. If you guys want to discuss them, we can, or we can move on. Page 109 on. Or just go to the next slide, probably. No, one more. Okay, we'll move on to the general fund summary. Okay, so the city does collect 2% sales tax for general fund. 1% took effect in 1980. Then voters approved an additional 1% in 2023. So this is a summary of all the general fund revenues and expenditures. On all of these financial slides, you'll see the fiscal year 24 and 25 actuals. The third column over is what we have budgeted for the current fiscal year. Then the next column shows the year-to-date totals through April. Then we have the next column that shows where we expect to end the fiscal year. And then the next to last column, the column with the box around it, is the draft budget for fiscal year 27. So the last column on the slide also shows the changes between the current fiscal year and then the draft budget year. Okay, so the significant changes were on the budgeted highlights we just looked at. So and then if you look at other sources towards the bottom, that's a transfer from electric, is the 5% royalty fee. Then other uses, that is an expense. It is a transfer to other funds that has little to no revenue source. The details on the draft budget are at the bottom of the slide on what is being transferred. So for the current fiscal year, we are looking to end the fiscal year with a surplus of $196,000. And then on the draft budget is ending at $323 surplus. So we don't have much room in there to play with. And Sally already mentioned this, but when we were looking at the CIP, we do not have the expenses for if we chose to go with the bus and that grant. So that would decrease that amount, $63,000. So we'd be in the hole,
Okay.
that amount. Any questions so far? Okay, so this is a breakout of the revenue sources for the general fund. Sales tax is the largest revenue source for the general fund. For revenues, we anticipate ending this fiscal year at $4.4 million. We have in the draft budget total revenues at just over $4.3 million. And the next two slides are the details within those revenue categories if you want to dig in deeper. Okay, and then this is a look at the expenditures within the general fund. So we have several departments within the general fund, with the police department being the largest department, so they have more expenses, and then the street department being the next largest. So overall, general fund expenditures, including the other uses, which is, again, a transfer between funds, we anticipate ending this fiscal year at $4.2 million. For the draft budget, expenditures at $4.3 million. The budget highlights and notable changes were on the previous slide, so we can go back if you all want to look at those, or we can move forward. And then the next several slides are the details within each department and each category within each department.
Sorry.
So all of the major changes were on that first
Okay.
notable changes slide. So we can go back and look at that if you all want, or we can go line by line, whatever you want to do. Move on.
And I do encourage you also, if there's a question later that occurs to any of you, please reach out. We'd be more than happy to answer. Okay?
Yeah.
Anything tonight or later?
1:30.
1:30.
I looked them up this time.
I'm not sure how to tell them.
Well, their slide will say number 34 at the top.
The one we're going to?
Their page will show that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, because that'll be helpful if we call that out. So 1:30.
135 for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so this is the replacement fund for the general fund. funds are transferred from the operating fund to this fund for future vehicle replacements and major building repairs. So for the draft budget, we have an expense of $115,000 for the police vehicles, and then transferring $88,000 from the operating fund. So revenues less expenses, there is a deficit of $12,000, so we would be pulling from the previous year's reserves. The prior year funds were built up to pull for these types of purchases. So based on the draft budget, we will have a fund balance of $910,000 for future years. So if you look at the very bottom of that slide, that is the fund balance after next year's budget.
I don't think we have that.
Huh?
We don't have that.
I don't know, it doesn't look like it. I'm going back.
We don't have page 34.
It
goes
stops
to
at
30,
31.
31.
I wonder what happened when he printed it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know. That's the end of your,
Back to that promise that next meeting will be better.
so you don't have nothing else on
You
your,
mean we're gonna have a
This
next
is the
meeting?
last one.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't expect you guys to approve this the very first time we run through it.
Oh, no.
Okay, so
Sorry about that.
next slide
Page 35.
is the Special Streets Fund. Sally has kind of already touched on this. One correction on the street maintenance. Sally has in the CIP of $300,000. I have $380,000, so I'm not sure where the miscommunication went. But I will change my slide to say $300,000. So we're showing a deficit of $144,000, but that will reduce it by $80,000. So it won't be quite that. It'll be more like
140,
80,000, 90,000 or something. Yeah. So, yeah. So that is one of those funds that we'll still be pulling from prior year funds.
And we will have better numbers on this by the next meeting because we just issued the request for bids for this project today.
Okay,
So we'll have those bids in before our next meeting and have actual numbers.
all right.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the Park and Recs Fund, 138. Okay, and this just notes there are major changes within their budget. It's nothing major. Their revenue decreases quite a bit by $220,000, and that's just due to a one-time FEMA payment. And then there's really nothing else major that changes in their budget. They are at a deficit of $14,000. You can go to the next page. Yeah, so there'll be a deficit of $14,000, which their park board has reviewed and has okayed to pull from their prior year funds. So even after they pull $14,000 out of their budget, they'll still have like $800,000 in their fund balance. Okay, and if you guys want more detail, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll just keep rushing through it. Okay. We'll move on to, let's see, 145, page 145.
Are you trying to speed me up?
Okay. Okay, so this is what we used to use as the fireworks fund. We are proposing with the approval of the budget to change the name of this since we don't do the fireworks no more. That is now an outside entity that does that. Changing it to the Civic Theater Fund. We're hoping to get this up and running. I've got some very rough estimated numbers plugged in here. Sally and I are still working on that, and Melissa. We got a meeting with a guy next week to kind of maybe talk about costs and see what that looks like.
Okay.
So we're hoping to have just minimal a surplus, and hopefully to break even.
And we want to break this out as a separate fund so we can track if it's paying for itself. That's my goal, is that even if it doesn't generate a revenue, that it at least carries its own weight.
Yeah.
I feel like this building, because it's not utilized every day of the week, kind of is a drain on funds anyway. And so we don't want to add more to it that would be more drain. So we feel like the theater part itself needs to pay its own way. So that's why we want to have a separate fund just for it, so we can track that better. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay, then we have a building permit fund. We don't bring in enough revenue to support itself. Revenues are like $14,000, and that's just basically on permits. And then our expenditures are running around 43,000. So with a transfer of almost 29,000 from the general fund, we have, net surplus or, yeah.
A net of zero.
Yeah, a net of zero. Okay. 149. Okay, and this moves into our capital improvement fund, and this is, the source of revenues comes from the half-cent sales tax. So this whole fund is based upon sales tax. We do occasionally get some grant revenues that will fund this. But these are all the projects Sally's already talked about, so I don't want to go over them again unless you really want to, but if not, we'll just move on to the next slide. So on capital improvement, we're looking at, for the draft budget, of revenues of around almost $870,000. Then if you look at the total expenditures, we're looking at almost 1.5 million. And the major portion of that is that culvert replacement of 600,000. So that really ups that. So then with the other uses, transfer to the airport fund, which is an expense, brings us to a deficit of 728,000. So. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes. What do you got?
Looking at, so I'm looking at the fund balance on the bottom, the prior year funds at the very bottom, right? So you got 1.3, and then you have, let me try to
Drops down to 650,000.
Yeah, so that's, I guess I was looking at, what was concerning me is I was looking at the 2027 over 2026, it shows like minus 561 or something like that. I'm trying to figure out, what do we expect the end balance if we go through this? Is it going to be?
As it is right now, it will drop our fund balance down to 653,000.
653. And those are not earmarked for other projects or anything else?
Correct.
Okay, so that's just
Prior year funds.
Okay, so those are prior year funds that are just.
And, if you recall during our CIP conversations, the reason it's dropping so dramatically, there's that $600,000 culvert we've got to replace at Philmart. So
Right.
that's a huge chunk of it. There's $140,000 that right now for the airport, for the grant match, that we talked about, maybe we split that with the airport fund. So, that's really what makes up the bulk of that drop in that fund.
Right. And I was just wondering because like a lot of these projects are like big projects and the capital improvements gets like grant funding in and out of it a lot of the time. So I was making sure that none of those were just like prior year grant funds that were.
And to be honest, the majority of our grants are through utilities,
Yeah.
not through the capital improvement fund.
I
Yeah,
understand.
they're in the capital improvement plan, but they're utilities. not-
Right, yeah, and I was just saying like, I was like, okay, are those non-earmarked for things or are they?
No, those are not earmarked for things.
Okay,
I
this will
know.
become important later.
Yes, I know.
Which is coming important this
I
year.
know where you're going.
We're thankful we had that to do this big project that we have to do.
It's like them unexpected legal fees.
Yes, yes.
Which that's coming out of general fund.
That's what we
You
pay
clocked
out
me
of.
right away. You clocked me
Oh, yeah.
right away.
No, I know where you're going.
Okay, move on to the cemetery fund, number 156.
Need more people done.
Huh?
So cemetery fund is again one of those that does not bring in enough revenue. We're looking at 32,000 possibly. That's charges for services,
Sale of plots.
sale of plots and when we do burials. That's where that revenue comes from. So and then we're looking at expenses of 122,000. So we're transferring from the general fund around 90,000, to net zero the overall. Okay, any questions on cemetery? Okay. Slide 160. Okay, looking at the airport fund, again, we have hardly no revenue coming in. We have hangar rental fees around 11,000. We do have a grant this year, so almost 1.3 million in grants. Then we do have fuel sales, almost 10,000. That's revenues, so if you want to go up one slide.
Go up on the slide?
Yeah. Go up one slide.
Oh, up thanks.
Yeah.
Did you say fuel cell was about 10,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So then our expenditures come to, with that grant, is 1.5 million. And then because we're at such a deficit, we propose to move 140,500 from the capital improvement fund, which makes their deficit of 21,000, leaving their fund balance of around $150,000.
And that 155,000 fund balance is why staff initially proposed that we pull the grant match from capital improvement fund instead. Because the airport has been in deficit spending for the past several years. And even without that, we're still up 21,000 that we're pulling from prior year funds. So if we pulled the full 140,500 for grant match from this, we'd be left with $15,000 in their fund, which would not cover what we've been pulling each year just to balance their budget.
And if they have an emergency with their lighting system or fuel system,
Right.
they wouldn't have any surplus there.
All right.
So that's the why.
Yeah.
Now, airport has met, and they have approved this budget and recommend approval. But I do know, the reason I say we might want to consider changing where some of that funding comes from, they do have to meet in July by code, just to elect officers. So if we needed to run something back by then, we could.
Okay.
Okay. Slide 163. Okay, this is the look at the Economic Development Fund. Again, it has really no revenue source. We get $12,000 from the IDA board to help cover the costs of the salary. Total expenditures are $113,000. So we need to do a transfer from the general fund of almost $101,000. Yeah. Yeah. So as Sally kind of mentioned earlier, there is a fund balance of $139,000 that we could maybe do the comprehensive plan out of, pull from her prior year funds if we chose to.
And the reason there's not the same concern with the Economic Development Fund as there is with the Airport Fund. Economic Development, all of those original expenditures for that Welcome Home Grant came out of general fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? It wasn't generated from economic development revenue streams.
Right.
Whereas the airport, their prior year fund balance was from their revenue streams. So.
Okay, questions? Move on to utilities. 166.
Kyle's area of expertise.
Okay, this is looking at the electric fund, just their budget highlights, notable changes. Let me see, let's see. The biggest one there is the personnel expense, increasing $136,000. That's due to increases in pay. And then, as Sally kind of already mentioned, an additional position for tree trimming, but we're going to be cutting that expense line significantly. Actually, it cuts the expense line, I think, $91,000. The maintenance line decreases $91,000. So to help offset some of that.
For the tree trimming.
Yeah.
When we're not contracting it out.
And improve the service.
Yes. He's increased some of his expenses for just more complex work and just to do some of the things that's needed to be done over the years. So he's kind of playing catch up. So he's wanting to spend a little extra. So if we go to the next slide. And the utility committee has reviewed their budget, but they did not have a quorum. So they did not approve or make any kind of recommendations. So they'll be reviewing again next month. So the total revenues are at almost 7.1 with expenditures of 6.2. And then they have other uses, which is going to transfers to the electric DNR fund, transfer to the electric reserve fund, and then transfers to the general fund. So that is an expense coming out of their budget. So leaves them a surplus of $500 to play with. But it does leave their fund balance pretty good at 1.6 million.
Yeah.
Which is good for emergencies because the electric can fluctuate a lot.
And a prime example for those who weren't in on those conversations, this January, Winter Storm Fern, The city's electric bill was 900.
Like a 960?
Yeah, $970,000.
Just
Which
shy
is
of a
considerably
million.
more than what we normally have for that time of year. But because we had healthy fund balances, we were able to pay it. Previously, the February of 2021 cold snap, we are just now paying off the 0% loan from that fund, that cold snap, because we didn't have reserves at that time to cover it. So 5 years later, we're just paying that off. So as an example, and why it becomes so important to have these fund balances.
Okay. 172. This is a look at the electric replacement fund. Most of their capital improvement projects that Sally already talked about comes out of this fund. So their total expenses are like $215,000. It has no revenue source, so it has to come from their operating fund. So that's why other sources, that is the revenue from their operating fund. So leaving their overall budget balance at $104,000 for the year, and their overall fund balance at $602,000. Okay. 173. Okay, this is just a look at the water fund. No significant changes, I don't believe. No, I mean, it's nothing, no major dollar amounts. If you want to go to the next slide.
Should we also add, as we go into the utility funds, what staff's recommendations are, whether increase or decrease or no on rates? Not necessarily what they should be, but
Like, what do you mean?
like electric, we're not recommending.
Right. For electric, because we do have the surplus of $500. So basically, we're breaking even. We don't anticipate any kind of rate increase.
Staff won't be recommending that rate.
And we will be
Okay.
reviewing the rates at our next Alderman meeting, because I do believe our ordinance says that it will automatically change to basically what the MPUA,
Increase in our costs.
right,
Automatically unless action is taken.
right. So we'll have to make some kind of recommendation, have a recommendation from the utility committee.
Either that or we need to look at moving the utility committee meeting up a week, so.
Right. Okay, go to the next slide.
So water fund,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay, so water fund revenues are budgeted at 1.3 million, expenditures at 1 million. But the other uses, which is a transfer to that DNR fund, which is all of the CIP projects, is 837,000, which leaves this fund in a deficit of 546,000. So if we want to go to the next,
And so just a refresher, those big projects, it's the rehab of the industrial park water tower, 576,000. It's the rehab of well number 6. Those are the
Yeah.
two big things that are in there.
Right.
so the utility committee will review those at our next meeting to determine what kind of rate increase, if they want to, or how much to pull from prior year funds. So that will be determined at our next meeting.
Yeah, and just so you know, if rates are not increased, this is where it leaves their fund balance, the 457,000. So that gets a little scary. But that's what it would do if there's no rate increase.
Right.
Can I ask about something? I know I looked at this 2 days ago, but something else I'm looking at here. So I'm saying on the utilities for the water fund summary, remember I was asking about the draft budget and whether we needed to jump that up because we're going to have a new water tower under us. You know, so but I'm also noticing, so right now we have we're 80% through the year, 85. It's April and we have 1 month left of the fiscal year.
Right, sorry, I'm trying.
Not in the water fund
Right.
details. I'm looking all the way, sorry, go back. I guess you can look at utilities electric, sorry.
Yeah, this is the utilities here.
Okay.
At the bottom of this screen. So right down here, these are, so what this means, the utilities for utility. This is the electric, the water, the sewer costs to operate the water department. So the electric to keep the lights on, to run the well pumps, it's those utilities that are used. So that's what he's talking about.
So what was your
Yeah.
question again? I'm sorry.
The question's gonna be, in 1 month, 1.5
On the electric?
months, on the electric, we're looking to
I
spend
did look at that.
60,000?
I forgot, in the prior,
Because I noticed.
I think in 24, 25, they changed out a meter and they did not have the scale on there.
Okay.
So we underbilled. So it's going to be more up.
In 24, 25, we underbilled for it?
Yeah, that's why it was so much
Okay,
cheaper.
yeah, I see 154 in the 2023, 2024, then a drop, and then it
Yep.
raised, and then,
Yep.
or we
So,
amended a budget.
Yeah.
But is that the, so if we didn't have that meter going and we under budgeted and it's at 91, are we still expecting 154 for projected end year?
Maybe not for this year, we may not
Yeah.
make that. Yeah, we may not hit the 155 for this year.
And
That
it may
we-
not move the needle a lot, but like,
Right, but I'm-
lowering the budget on that, on the,
That would be for
revenue.
this year's. So it
Yeah.
would just roll over to our fund balance is what's going to happen if we don't spend all of that was
I don't know that
budgeted.
I'd lower it for this upcoming budget year with that new well coming.
Correct.
True, and so it's gonna wash out, I think, here in
Correct.
a bit. It's just,
Right.
that was just something I noticed.
But you're right, we may not expend all of this amount right here this
Yeah, I was like-
in the next month and a half. Yeah.
I was
Correct.
gonna say $70,000 in a month when we'd spend
Be a lot.
80,000 in 9 months seems,
Yeah.
Although that was one of the initial indicators that we knew that well 6 was having problems, was an increased use of electricity.
right.
And so,
But, yeah, I think let it ride this time. I don't really.
this
ha-
time, thank you.
I'm sorry, I mean, you know what I mean, like,
I'm just giving you a hard time.
yeah. I'd rather swing high on the expenditures and
absolutely.
come in under than.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But
ready
I
to
don't
move
want
on?
to raise water rates a ton to
No.
compensate for that
Right.
Agreed.
when we don't have to. So I'm trying to figure out, like, in the expenditures, where
could cut.
where can we pull some of that back to try to not increase the water rate as high
Gotcha.
or as whatever.
Right.
I know, none of these changes I'm looking at are going to be 500,000,
Right.
but,
Right.
a little bit here and there helps.
It does, it does. Any other questions before we move on?
Okay, move on to the sewer fund, 180. Okay, again, the sewer fund, we're not looking at any major changes, some personnel expense increases due to the, the COLA and the merit. And, oh yes, I should have mentioned this in the water and the sewer fund, we'll see an increase in that personnel expense line due to, we have an employee retiring, and he has accrued quite a bit of vacation and admin time.
That we'll be paying out.
Yeah, and sick time, so he'll get paid out all of that, so it'll hit the budget pretty hard. And as Sally kind of already mentioned, we will have increased operating costs for the sewer fund. We may not see a lot of it in this, well, we'll probably start seeing it in this budget year. I think Chris has tried to make his best guesstimates, Chris and Josh, to see what those are gonna be, so we'll see how it lands. Budgeting at 1.6 million, expenditures at almost 1.4 million, and then other uses is an expense line, is 216,000, that's going to the sewer DNR fund, which is the replacement fund, and then to the debt service fund, that's gonna be our bond payment for this upcoming year.
DNR requires, and they required us to put it in our ordinances, that we're setting aside so much each year towards the replacement of the sewer treatment plant. So the idea is that over 20 years, we would have an amount equivalent basically to replace the upgrades we're making to the plant now. So that's what that 34,000 is.
Okay, so we'll have a surplus of just 7,000, so we're not looking at any kind of rate increase this year for the sewer fund. That bond payment next year going from 300 or 35,000 is gonna significantly increase, so we may need to be looking at a rate next budget year, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, and then slide 186. Okay, I do show the sewer reserve fund on here just because it is in a deficit, and we'll be asking for, and to use prior year funds. And Sally already discussed this. This is because we had a revenues come in this budget year. So if you look at the projected budget year, we're going to come in at 433,000 surplus. Go over, right there. Yeah, so we're going to end this budget year at around $430,000 surplus, but the next budget year, we're looking at $195,000 deficit, and that's because of the offset expenses coming in next budget year. And then, I think I just got one more slide, 187. Okay, so this is just a look at all the city's current debt. So for fiscal year '27, next to the last column shows that we will pay out $1.1 million towards our debt payments. Then the last column shows the balances of the city's debt, which is around 12 million. Any questions? I know it's a lot.
Every time. Waylon just looks at me like, what do you got, Kyle?
I know that was
I'm
fast, so if,
probably going to make a bullet list. I don't think.
yeah,
I gotta go
we went through
this,
that
'cause,
pretty
like, looking at
fast,
this,
so if you have any
right.
questions, yeah.
There's so much stuff.
there's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't go through it and review it, I don't think we're doing our job.
True.
I've highlighted
I,
things. And this gives me an excuse to go up and eat off the snack table. They have a wonderful snack table in the building.
So, yeah, just, and like I said earlier, please don't hesitate. If you think of something later on that, oh, man, I wonder, I really don't understand this, please let us know. We're happy to try to answer questions. Because we do. We want you all to understand this as much as you want to understand it. Okay? So, yeah. So we do put that play out there. Any final thoughts?
thank you for putting this out here. Like, it's a lot of work. I mean, there's an entire position for it besides Stacy, but like, you guys all came together, whether it be from utilities, all the different utilities of that, the police department, all you guys, coming up with a reasonable budget and the justification for all of those. We have a justification for all of these numbers. The capital improvements plan is fantastic. We didn't have that 4 years ago. It was just.
Well, and we've actually, when we were doing interviews to select a new engineering firm for the city, that we were complimented on the capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
We were told that they don't see that level of sophisticated capital improvement plan from cities our size. So.
Yeah. No, I appreciated all the work that all of the departments from, like I said, from parks, police, utilities, all the different utilities of that. And posting it online for everybody to kind of review if they so choose.
Right.
I know it's light reading, at night.
Right.
I go through the city budget, like every other night. It's great.
There's no fence.
But, no, I appreciate all the work you put into this.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Not one of you fell asleep, so.
Yeah.
That water tower deal is a little slow. If you
Is it
could
a little slow?
A little slow.
Okay. Okay.
See.
I'm not sure what that means, but okay. All right, so,
Go ahead.
if you have any questions.
It's not so much a question, it's more just comments about going way back to the start of this thing and of what I was wanting to talk about a little bit, where the funding would come from. Yeah, you know where I'm going, and you clocked me right off the bat with what I think we can do. So I do think, we have a lot of prior year funds. I don't want to use all of them. Obviously, there's two things I wanted to comment on the bus project, because it's kind of a personal pet project of mine that I've been trying for a couple of years. The one thing is I wouldn't necessarily pursue it if we didn't get the grant for it. There's a 80% grant. I don't think Salem could take on it would be about $200,000 purchase the first year and gathering up all the stuff, and then about maybe I think it's 80,000 is what I planned for moving forward between maintenance costs, bus, having DNR funds, because they're going to ask for that, for replacement of the bus after every so many years.
Right.
So I don't think the city could take in all of that. Now, the grant funding is promised for the next couple of years.
And I think with all of the information that we have, I think we have a good chance, you know, especially being called out from MRPC, our Regional Planning Commission, as one of the heavier needs. I think we have a good chance to get the grant funding. I would suggest applying for the grant funding, and then when that goes through, then we could take a look, you know, then we can actually get the stuff to fund it. However, I would want to set aside some funding just in case it does go through, so we can get started on it this fiscal year, because unfortunately, the award time for these grants is in like August through October.
That's what I was gonna ask, when is the next cycle open?
Yeah, the cycle, I believe the due date is somewhere in October. You remember I called you at the end of last year.
It's due in October?
And
then they fund it when?
I'd have to look again.
Okay.
I could get back to you on the specifics of that.
Gotcha.
But I remember calling you up and we had like 1 week, you know,
Right,
to get
yes.
something in, because MoDOT released the application to me 1 week before we were able to submit it. And it was like, it's impossible to write that. Because you also have to have meetings and specific, meetings and not town halls, but hearings, you know, so people can come up and ask questions about it.
Move slowly.
Yeah, it's a bureaucracy kind of thing, and one of those things that they have checks and balances for. So I would want to set aside some in the budget. Like they were saying, they didn't have it plugged into the budget this year, right?
Right.
So that's something that we would have to change and probably vote on now, to change and modify the budget for this year if we wanted to put.
For your next meeting.
For the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have some thoughts on it already. So right now, the idea, if we got the grant funding, it would probably, by my estimations, run the city match at around $60,000. Now that's operating expenses and the capital improvement, and you know, of buying the bus.
Right.
It would cost in total. So that would be somebody to, you know, that would be maintenance costs, operating costs, somebody to, you know, get somebody online, and we'd have to change up we'd have to add a line for a driver or something in the wages. But my thought was to use some of the prior year funds. We have 1.3, you know, in the general fund, $1.3 million in the general fund. And we have 657,000 projected at the end of the year for the capital improvements fund. The bus purchase would be a capital improvement. It is a purchase of an asset that is over X amount of $1,000.
No, but we can purchase like police vehicles.
Right.
Well, it's in the capital improvement plan, is purchased with general fund dollars.
Right.
So-
But I'm sitting here thinking, I don't want to take all of that 60,000 from general fund. My proposition would be half and half. You have 1.3 million in the general fund for DNR, or not DNR, but
Repair and replacement.
Yeah, not
Depreciation and replacement.
depreciation and replacement, but you have like $1.3 million in funding in the general fund, and you have 657. I'm asking for about 30 in each, which would be about 2.4% of the general funds.
So this is a 5-year grant?
No,
You reapply every year, right?
So that is on the 5310, you would just reapply, and typically, once you have it, there hasn't been a lot of people, except for ones that have been egregious about not using the bus, that have pulled their program. That's a 50/50 grant that you apply for every year. The 5311 is a single year purchase of the bus. So that's just a purchase of the bus. Once you have the bus, then you can apply for the other grant, which is a 50% match in operating costs. It is specifically detailed for rural community transportation improvement through MoDOT. But my thought would be to fund that first year of 60,000, half from prior year general, half from prior year capital improvement.
I would consider a one-time like that. I wouldn't want it to be annually.
Yeah.
I appreciate you looking outside the box as we talk.
Yeah.
And find some, and the fiscal responsibility, but I would want it to support its.
Right. And if we're looking to support itself, like, it is not,
Houston offers it for free, and there's other communities that do offer like a free, shuttle service. You can, there is a possibility of, it's $1 to ride the bus or something like that. You can put that in there. I don't know, that would, you can't really budget based upon that because we don't know what our ridership numbers would be. Houston, a town of half our size, has 17,000 people riding it per year. So that is massive. It's also free, and they also have a secondary use of the SRI guys using it in Houston for their transportation.
Right.
So it's kind of a, but I think SRI already has a shuttle that they use for their employees, so we wouldn't need to do that. But every year the recurring expense was around 50,000. So it would have to be, and that's with the 5310 grant because that's including a bunch of other things.
I will add, as staff has talked about it, and we've not spent a ton of time so far
Right.
talking about it, but there are some logistics to figure out. Where do we house the bus? Where does it, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. We don't have a ton of extra shop space to store it in or those types of things. We do have some concerns, and I'm just being honest, Kyle.
Absolutely.
Some concerns about staffing of it.
Yeah.
If you're running this as a free service or even $1, some concerns about some of the constituents and riders and issues that could be. So those are concerns that as staff that
Right.
we have, so.
Yeah, and I have a presentation to forward city staff that I got from MoDOT because I did meet with the lead engineer for multimodal transportation for MoDOT, which I was.
Right. So
But for the I want to set those funds aside and see if we can apply for it, and if we get it, then I want to try to move forward with it, and I wanted to see what your guys' thoughts are. If you have any questions about it, I can try to answer some of that, but if we wanted, because we would need to, I guess I would make a motion to amend it to try to fund that. How would I word that?
I mean, so you do have a quorum tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Rick is the chairman for
Or,
finance.
no, you were saying we could do it next meeting?
Well, you can. If you want us to go ahead and work it into the budget, though, probably a recommendation would be helpful at this point.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, that's not currently in the budget numbers. Now, that doesn't mean could get struck down later by one of these committees or the board.
Or
but-
the other, yeah.
Right. But Finance Committee, Rick is the chairman, does have a quorum, and that's Patty, Kyle, and David, our Finance Committee. Lauren and Annie, you guys are Capital Improvements Committee.
So do I need to make two motions? One for because I'm on both, am I not?
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm not?
You're
Oh.
just on Finance.
Oh, neat.
He slid that in.
Yeah. I don't know what
You have a
I'm
quorum
part
for
of it not
Finance,
now.
yes.
So you're wanting a motion, you want to make a motion tonight to put them into the.
Into the
put
preliminary
into the-
budget.
into
Yeah,
the preliminary budget.
Yeah, I would move to add the city shuttle program into the city budget draft for fiscal year '27.
Do I have a second?
No, that's got to come from Patty or David.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion dies due to lack of
Second.
second.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other items that we presented to you all as, options or things to think about that you would like staff to incorporate or change?
I gotta have some time.
And if not, and that's fine, that's perfectly fine. If there was anything that anyone felt strongly about, that way staff knows what to do with it, so, not a problem. I do want to comment, as we move forward, we talked about some of our larger grants kind of coming to an end in the next several months. And so, we just received the announcement about that new emerging contaminants grant to get rid of the sludge from our wastewater treatment plant. So that's a new one. It should be completed in this next calendar, or this next fiscal year. They have just announced funding, also grant funding for, coming back. The lead service line project, the one I mentioned earlier, that's the one you guys get the letters about every year about what your water line's made of. So the grant that we have now that we'll be wrapping up in the next few months is just for exploration, basically, to determine, are these lead lines, are they not, what are they? They have just announced now the first round of grants coming up for actual replacement of water lines that need replaced. So that would be lead or galvanized lines.
Okay.
So those grants, like I said, are just now coming out. So we'll be looking at those. We know so far we don't have a large number of lead or galvanized lines identified. And so these next 19 days of exploration that I don't know exactly when we'll be kicking those off yet, but we'll be focusing on parts of town that we're pretty confident will have
Right.
some of those lines that need
So the
replaced,
odors,
so that we can develop a plan moving forward. So, those are the ones that I'm aware of on the horizon right now. As some of you may know, I mean, those new stuff is coming out every other day. So we'll be keeping our eyes open. MPUA helps us look for those grants also. Actually, MPUA are the ones who helped us fill out all the applications and get that grant for the sludge removal.
Okay.
So, so they've been very helpful. MRPC also helps us, as well as notifications for grants, as well as applying for those. So we've got other folks out there helping us. Toth, our new engineering firm, will be doing that as well. So,
all right.
okay. So I think, do you have anything else to add? I think that's all we have from staff. So. Okay, so Finance Committee, do you want to adjourn us?
Have a motion for adjournment.
Yes. Okay. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for your
guys.
time.